Hello everyone, I'm Whitney Bandel, and welcome to another video from my Web 243 Search Engine Optimization course. In this video, we will be looking at the content for week 2. The learning objectives for this week are going to be as follows. Learn and understand audience and topic profiles. Learn and understand keyword generation and selection, head and long tail keywords. Learn, understand, and incorporate analytics. Learn and understand markup strategies for coding a website, and learn and understand server-side strategies for SEO. For this week, you are going to need to read chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 from the textbook. Chapter 4 in particular is just going to be part of that chapter. It's not going to be the whole chapter. Then you're going to have supplemental material, which is going to go over several developer tools. It'll look at short and long tail keywords. Then there's going to be some links on sitemaps, Google Analytics, cultural trends, etc. Project development throughout the course. To advance through this course, your requirement is to ensure access to a website that you can manipulate from the coding end. We already talked about this in previous videos, but you need to make sure that by now you actually have access to those files. You will need to be able to implement code, change page names, directory structures, etc., all the while keeping the site intact. It is recommended that you take on a small site at this juncture so you are not overwhelmed with the amount of updates you will encounter. If your selected site is large, I would suggest concentrating on only a small section of that site for your projects. You may certainly use your portfolio site, a small business site, etc. We're kind of looking at having about 4 or 5 pages or so to work with. Doesn't really have to be much more than that. Some topics for this week are going to be looking at keywords, looking at your target audience, creating sitemaps, and looking at cultural trends. Google provides several modules to help you generate keywords that are specific to your site's goals, product, or topic. Although Google is the most globally used search engine, you must always keep in mind that other engines are used as well. There are some specific engine tactics that can be employed. However, most SEO best practices and tactics are applied to address all engines. Like I mentioned before, you will be able to find some of these tools under the supplemental materials to look at. SEO Watch. In the supplemental materials, you will notice that there is a link for SEO Watch, which is a preferred source for SEO trends and industry news. It provides an overview of using head versus long tail keywords. If you find that you enjoy SEO, it is recommended that you subscribe to SEO Watch. This company sends timely, pertinent news and tips and tricks to your email and offers regular webinars with leading industry professionals. So first, we're going to take a look at identifying your target audience. You really want to take a look at the typical age range of that target audience. You want to think about the different cultural aspects of that audience, the geography of that person. So depending on where they live, the words that they choose to use might be different. For example, people might say pop in some places or soda in others. And so you want to think about the keywords that people might be using that might be different and focus on those words. An example I also like to use is there might be certain keywords that people use that are more technical, but they might not be the words that people are actually looking up. So my example is my husband used to work as an automotive technician. That's the preferred word that he had, car mechanic. And so if he had a website where he was offering his services to work on people's cars, he might have preferred using the term automotive technician. If somebody were to go to a search engine and try to look up get car fixed or car mechanic, chances are they're not using the word automotive. They're thinking car, truck, something that's going to be shorter, kind of more commonly used. Probably not going to think of the word technician. They're going to think of a mechanic. So even if it's consider the more proper word by somebody who's in a specific industry, you're not going to be reaching your audience if you're not using the terms they're going to be thinking of. So you want to think about that as well, not getting too caught up in the technical terms. You want to think about the educational level of that target audience as well. This kind of goes back into age range. If you are targeting a website towards, let's say, children are not going to be as familiar with larger words that are going to be more specific. So you want to think of the keywords that would be most age appropriate or maybe most educational level appropriate. You might also need to consider the economic demographic of your target audience. You can use tools like Google Trends to narrow down your intended target audiences. Google Trends gives you a sort of overview if you look up different words and where those words are kind of most commonly looked up. I just looked up Google Trends real quick. Here, this is actually doing the year in search 2019 overview. So here we can actually look at what words were trending from 2019 on a global level. So here we have searches, India versus South Africa, Cameron, Boise, Copa, America. So this is searches. Then we have news, people, so particular people who are looked up, actors who are looked up, athletes, movies, passings, songs, TV shows. We can click on this and we can actually change this. So maybe our results are going to be a little bit different if we look at just the United States. So here, we have searches Disney Plus. We have a couple of the same people, hurricane, maybe kind of more local news about things that are affecting specifically. So Area 51 raid, people, actors, athletes, babies, Baby Yoda is apparently one of the top results, diets, fashion style searches, home style searches, movies, musicians. So this will give you some things to kind of look at and consider. We can just go to the Google Trends website. So you can start trying to look up a term. So if you wanted to look up I'm just going to type in search engine optimization. We can look at the results based off of several categories. So we can kind of see that interest over time, this is since February 3rd, 2019, is slowly increased. We could look at this for worldwide. Maybe instead, let's do 2004 to the present. And here we can actually see that interest looked like it was highest back in 2004, slowly dipped down, but now it's on the rise again. It looks kind of like the lowest point was around 2015. So this is becoming more popular. You can look at interest by region. So let's see where we rank. United States is actually 18. And then we have related topics. So if you were to look up a keyword, maybe you're researching a particular brand, you might run into other related topics that you might think about those keywords in addition to using yours. So here we have social media, local search engine optimization, consultant, analytics, WordPress. Your SEO tactics, depending on who you are targeting, should include colloquialisms and vocabulary commonly used by your audience. Do be cautious to not be too trendy, though. Including fleeting fads into your content might result in bouncing SEO results, which can create obstacles in a long-term SEO strategy. So again, back to that idea of thinking about words that might be different depending on the region, soda, pop, and then also thinking about kind of passing trends. So I'd be cautious if you are going to use terms that are constantly changing. Keywords. Generate a potential keyword list that is as large as possible, organized by search volume. So this would be a great way for you to look at Google Trends and try to see which ones of your keywords are actually coming up more. Search volume is the number of searches performed on a unique keyword over a period of time. You can also use cost per click as an indicator of relative value of a keyword to see, is it going to be more expensive to have a keyword, or is it going to be least expensive? So chances are, if it's more expensive, it's going to be a word that's more popular. Looking at different terms, you can break these down into two different types. There's head versus long tail terms. You might hear it called head versus tail terms. But this idea is that head terms are going to be your shorter words. Long tail terms are going to be your longer words. And this graphic does a pretty good job of illustrating this idea. So we have competition on the left side, then we have less specific to more specific. So we have the whole body of the rat is towards the less specific. So that means you're going to have a lot of competition over those words. So for example, if you were using really popular tech word or something like Apple, chances are Apple's going to give you a lot of competition for that word because they have been using it for so long. There's so much of a recognized word. You wouldn't necessarily be able to have that come up very easily on your own, versus the more specific that you get and the more that you start creating longer terms, the less competition that you're going to have for those. So here I have some better examples. SEO tools being a head term. That one is going to have a lot more competition. It's going to be used more frequently. Then you have a long tail search engine optimization tutorial for beginners. So this is going to help you get a very specific group. Head terms are usually going to work more broadly. More people might be interested in just looking up SEO tools. Maybe they aren't beginners. They're not looking for tutorials. So long tail terms are going to bring in fewer people, but they're going to bring in people who are more interested in your content. So the people who do stick around are going to be more invested in sticking around, versus head terms are going to have a lot more bounce traffic that they might check out your content if they do find it, but they might not stick around because they're looking for other things. So it's kind of a good rule of thumb to stick more to those long tail words to really bring them into your pages. You might have on your homepage some of those head terms because that's your most broad page, just giving just an overview. And then for the rest of your pages, really sticking to those long tail terms to try to bring in this specific traffic that's going to be really interested in your content. So here we have an overview of when to use each type of term. Head terms tend to generate more traffic than tail terms. Tail terms typically have less traffic but convert more people. So again, if people are going to those pages, typically they are looking for that specific idea, and so they're more likely to stick around. When web pages have more generalized content, you should use head terms, like with your homepage. If there's more specific content, you should use long tail terms. A good place to use a head term would be your homepage. Head terms are very competitive, and usually only the top 10 websites in an industry rank high enough to show up on the front page of a search engine. So again, if you were looking at Apple, chances are so many websites use that term, and Apple in particular is going to get the most traffic when people are looking for that term. So unless you're one of those leading industries, one of the top 10 companies in an industry, you're probably not going to see the most traffic from those. Optimize for one or two main target keywords per page on your website. You don't want to throw all of your keywords into one page. You want to spread them out. So you want to think about which keywords are going to be best for pages and choose a few for each page to really highlight. And then you want to make sure you add your target keywords to your meta tags. So adding them to your description and finding ways to add them to your content so that way it's easier for search engines to find those. Now, this page is looking at the reading from your textbook, which gives you a lot of really great advice on creating pages. It's going to go into more detail on how you can do all of these processes, but overall, you're going to learn how to choose your file names using your keywords, optimizing your title tags, so using your keywords in your titles, optimize your meta description tags, so actually creating meta descriptions that will give a brief summary about your website, and then in addition, using your keywords in that description, optimizing your meta keyword tags, so actually creating keyword tags that will have your keywords within it, create meta robots tags, so that way you can use that feature as well, add emphasis with header tags, so thinking about how you can use your keywords in your headers to help organize and make sense of your information. Use text modifiers, optimize your images. So you should always be creating alternative text descriptions for your images, but go back and review your images and see, are there ways that you could add keywords to those that help them make a little bit more sense? Search engines are also going to look at your images, so if you can use keywords that will help generate traffic, that is going to help as well. Look at your links and how you are actually wording your links as well. And then again, make sure your code actually validates correctly. Basic website structure. This is also going to be looked at in further detail in your reading, but looking at your web hosting, thinking about your domain name. How did you choose your domain name? Is there a better name that you could use that would also help with your search results? Optimizing your content for multiple browsers, thinking about your website structure, link within subject matter themes. So thinking about how you can organize your content through themes. Designing a sitemap, you really want to make sure that you have a sitemap and you start thinking about the structure of your site, how everything is working together. Create a company information page. It's going to be really helpful, especially if you're trying to generate local traffic. So finding ways to put your actual information about you somewhere on your page, and then creating a privacy policy. This is really great too for people to gain trust in your website and to have an idea of how their information might be used. Sitemaps. A sitemap is a file where you provide information about the pages, videos, and other files on your site and the relationships between them. Search engines like Google read this file to more intelligently crawl your site. A sitemap tells Google which pages and files you think are important in your site and also provides valuable information about these files. Now, if you have a really small website that's maybe only 5 pages, you don't necessarily need to have a sitemap, but it is good for larger websites. I have an article in the supplemental reading that will go into sitemaps a little bit more, so that way you can kind of think about the pros and cons of creating a sitemap. You may be more familiar with the sitemap on the left, which is really more of a visual feedback for you to look at the structure of how you're organizing files, but you can actually create sitemaps that essentially are like a directory to help organize and show how all of your links are linked to each other to help give search engines a way to more intelligently crawl through your information. Next, we're going to look at Google Analytics. In addition to the above, you will also be implementing Google Analytics to your site. Once these items are implemented on your site, you will begin to see what adjustments are needed for your site. Once you begin looking at a Google Analytics report, you will be able to see why tailoring keywords, phrases, and moving content will help your SEO efforts altogether. Know that search and analytics tools are more useful for medium to large scale sites, however, can prove insightful for small sites as well. The gist of implementing these tools is so that you are familiar with the implementation process as well as how to report these tools. So when you're starting off with Google Analytics, you can use the description in your textbook. It's a little outdated, so it might be a little bit hard to follow along. But what you really need to do is go to the Google Analytics website, which if you look at the supplemental materials for this week, I have a couple links on head versus long tail keywords, a couple links on sitemaps. Here we have the links for working with analytics. I have cultural searching trends. So looking at the Google Trends links, and then for your consideration, Google Web Developer Tools. You will need to create an account if you do not already have Google Access. So you're going to want to use this in addition to working with Google Analytics. We're going to go here to this site. So if you haven't already, you want to click Start for Free. It's going to have you choose an account. So here I have the student email, and you can create an account. You have account name, and then you have some information. So let's see. Whoops. I'm just go ahead and hit next. And I'm looking for, let's stick to doing web. This would be helpful to do apps and web as well, but I don't really want us to worry about working with beta materials. If you want to, you can select this, but I think we're just going to go ahead and stick to web. Hit next. Website name. And then here, this is where, actually, I don't know what this is going to be. Let's do, here's where you type in your address. It could be the project you are working on for a company, or it could be your student project. In this case, it could be like students.jccc.edu, your username, final, it kind of depends on however your instructor had you type in your project. You can select an industry category if you want to, if there's one that makes sense. Reporting time zone, you would want to choose Chicago time, create. I'm going to accept these. So now I have some information that I can work with. Here we have tracking ID, website tracking, global site tag. So here I have, this is the global site tag, tracking code for this property. Copy and paste this code as the first item into the head of every web page you want to track. You already have a global site tag on your page. Simply add the configure line from the snippet below to your existing global site tag. So you're essentially taking this script, this first part here, that's just a comment. The script you're going to add to the head section. I would just suggest putting it before anything else in the head section, so that way if you have other scripts or if you have style sheets or anything, it just goes before everything. And you want to do that for each of your pages. So if you have a 5-page website, you're going to do that on all 5 pages. All right, so here I'm just opening up one of the examples from the HTML and CSS class. So here I have the head section of this page. Let me go back to this link. I have this copied. And then right here, I'm going to copy this. So I'm gonna indent that a little bit so I can see it. And then I would just need to save it and then make sure that you republish that to that area. You republish that to your student server space or wherever you have access to this. Now, there are a couple other things we're going to take a look at. I'm going to kind of click out of this. Don't be too alarmed because it might look a little bit different, but I'm just going to click on some of these different areas. So if we go to home, we can see an overview. At the top, we have all accounts. So I can actually look to see different websites that I have. I have another one already set up here. So look at the accounts, properties and apps, views. Then we have home. Here we have kind of an overview. We can look at user sessions, bounce rate. So when you're setting this up, you're not going to see everything right away. The point is to set this up as soon as possible, so that way with the last project, hopefully you can see a little bit of traffic. If you're using the student server space, chances are you probably aren't going to see a lot of traffic though. So this is more so you know how to do this in the future, even if you can't see the results from it now. But I can see like active users right now, traffic channel, sessions by country. You can see what pages people are looking at in particular. So if you're putting that script on each page, you can see which one of those pages is bringing people in. And if there was a page that you didn't want traffic from, you don't have to put the script on that. Customization. We have real time. This can help you looking at traffic sources, looking at content, audience. Here we can look at demographics, age, gender, behavior, new versus returning. Acquisition, we're going to look at this a little bit more in the future. This one's good. If you go to Google Ads, Search Console, this one's really good looking at the queries. So this you have to kind of set up separately, but this you will want to do. This report requires Search Console integration to be enabled. So we can look at setting that up. So here at the bottom, you'll see Search Console, adjust Search Console. We want to click on Add. This will open up a new website that says Enable Search Console data in Google Analytics. And we want to choose it for a site. I had this other one set up. This is just a website demo site. So I want to use this one, and then I'll click on Add a Site to Search Console. And then instead of looking at the Google Analytics, now we're looking at this Google Search Console, but this will give us an idea of what people are actually searching. So I can look at search clicks, coverage enhancements, look at performance, and other information. I'm going to see if I can find a previous. Now, something that's going to be a little bit different, you're going to need to make sure that you verify your ownership. So it's going to prompt you to download this file, upload to that particular page to actually verify it. Other verification methods are add a meta tag to your site's homepage, use the Google Analytics account. This is the one that you'd want to use to verify it. But you also have like Google Tag Manager, domain name provider. All right, so I've logged into my other account because I have a different website that's linked on here that will actually have results versus the student server space. It's really not being searched, so I don't really have much feedback that I'm getting. So here I'm able to take a look at my different accounts. I have a few here. I've uploaded a couple different ones because I was tweaking with them. And I'm able to click on these to look at the different results. So I have the homepage, which is giving me the overall analytics, users, sessions, bounce rate, session duration. So this is for last 7 days. I can look at last 90 days. So I can kind of see Here I had 11 users, here I had 15. Look at the audience overview. Active users right now is 0. So I just have this linked to my actual website. So now, since I'm on my website, I can actually see one person's on right now. You can actually turn this off so that way you can exclude certain feedback. For example, when I'm doing a lot of updating on my website, it looks like I have a lot of traffic, but really it's just me going to it to check it over and over again. So if you wanted to exclude your own traffic or even traffic from people who are on your same team, you can get rid of that. Here we have how many total new users did I have, what devices are people using. I can look at the traffic source. And again, I can take a look. So here I have DuckDuckGo, Bing, Google, Direct. We can look at where people are looking at my site from, predominantly the United States. Users by time of day. So it looks like most people are looking on Friday at 1 p.m. What pages are people going to? People are going to the fine art page, design, pretty much all of the pages. Mostly the fine art page though. Active users. Here we can kind of see where there's more activity. I would probably assume that I think I get most of my activity towards the beginning of the semester when people are looking at my website at the beginning of class. Look at sessions by devices. Most people are looking on a desktop. A few people are looking on mobile. How well do you retain users? Looks like it's not really scrolling down really well, so I can't really see, but here I have kind of an overview. So that's the homepage, real time. Since there's just one person right now and I'm just looking at my homepage, I'm probably not going to see much information, but I can see I'm in Kansas. Location, traffic sources, content. Now, also, if I looked myself up using a search engine, it would show which search engine I used to get there. Most people are probably following my link either by me telling them the address or probably my resume. Here, audience, we can look at the overview. Let's do by month. It's not really giving a lot of information. I set this up last semester, so I still don't have a whole lot of data to look at yet, but it should give you a better idea of what you can kind of expect. Audiences, here we have age range, mostly people 18 to 24, so it's probably students. Then I also have 25-34, again, probably mostly students. Here I can look at gender, interest category. This is kind of interesting. 5.49% sports, individual sports, running and walking. Which these aren't really related to. Computers and electronics would be most related. But here we have some drop downs for looking into each of these a little bit more. We can look at language, location. And again, we might have to change this a little bit to encompass a longer range. So instead of just a week, we could do December. Let's do last 30 days. So now we can actually see more information, behavior, new versus returning, frequency, engagement, technology, see browsers. So here we have Chrome 3, Safari 2, network, mobile, desktop, mobile. See if we can look at devices. Apple iPhone. It's probably me checking to see how bad my mobile version of my site is. Cross device, custom, benchmark. So this is nice, looking at user flow, looking at which page people start on, where else they tend to go, and then are they just dropping off? So maybe they're looking at one page and not looking any further. Maybe they're kind of looking around. Here we have acquisition overview. So here we have direct versus organic search. We can look at tree maps, referrals. We can look at Google Ads later. In a next video, we're going to look at working with campaigns. I don't have any campaigns set up. We can look at search queries. So here I could see if there was a particular search term that people were using. And if you wanted to test if this was working right, you could try searching for one of your keywords along with your website to see if it would show up. For example, I'd probably just type in my name because then I would know it would show up. Hour of the day. Here we have Search Console. Again, looking at queries. And this is actually a really good way to kind of see what people are searching for. So I have, looks like the top ones for this day: Art Gallery, Manhattan, Kansas, and then Bandel Design, and then Patty Conaway. See, over a month, we have the same term. So it looks like it's just those 3 terms that brought people in. Here you can look at social, campaigns, behavior. So there's a ton of content. I'm not going to go into everything because I don't necessarily have examples of everything to show you, but the main ones that we're really interested in is just getting an overview of kind of all of this information, so that way you can kind of see what's happening. And then again, if you go to acquisition, Search Console, and if you have that set up, you can look at those queries, and this is where you can actually see what people are searching to bring them in. And then you can go into some of these other areas if you want. I would really suggest, if you're really interested in getting to know Google Analytics better, take the Google Analytics course that we have. It's a full semester course that goes into all of this information. We're trying to keep it pretty simple. But once you use these analytics, or you can use information from other resources, maybe you don't have a lot of information from your own analytics, but you could do competitor analysis research to see what sort of keywords your competitors are using. Maybe you want to use the same words or slight variations of it to help you bring in traffic. But the more that you research and you find data, the more you're going to be able to look back at those keywords and make them better. Analytics over time. Although it takes time for content to really start ranking in the engines, analytics can help you prioritize your content to help establish your site authority. Depending on the timeliness and popularity of your content, it can generally take 1 to 6 months before your site will start ranking in the engines. So chances are by the time this class is over, you're not going to see too much. The engines do not rank a site immediately. As a content authority, it takes time to build a reputation, and reputation management is a growing industry as user and customer ratings tend to drive site and business success. Additionally, content competition is tough. The more integrity a site's content has, the better authority it will gain or retain. It's important to have a strategic plan to incorporate content authority via inbound linking from blogs, social media, and appropriately themed sites. All right, so taking a look at week 2, you should have the video that you're going to watch first. Then we have our supplemental materials. Whoops, it looks like I need to log in again. We have a couple links on working with our keywords. This first one, has some really great statistics on working with your keywords. It talks about impressions, percentage of clicks, conversions. It's really talking about finding that perfect amount of keywords. Here we have some really great information on the length of the keyword and how much it changes, how long people stick around for. So you really want to read that one. Here we have Search Console help. So helping set up that Search Console where you can get those query results. So I was just using this because this will be more up to date as a guide for getting it set up. But you should set up the Search Console help in addition to the Google Analytics. Sitemaps. These go over just learning about sitemaps in general. Do I need to have a sitemap? This one talks about kind of the how and why. Again, it gives you some statistics of how often people use sitemaps. Analytics, this is a link to the Google Analytics page. Here we have different tools. So this is SEO Workers, the cutting edge in SEO. It's a really great article to take a look at. Here we have the Google Trends. So you can look up different keywords and see if they're trending or not, where they're trending. Looks like that link's not working, so I'll probably end up removing it. And then for your consideration, Google Web Developer Tools. And this, again, can help you with getting started. Here we have the Search Console, where you can start getting this all set up. And here, we looked at this a little bit before, but since I've switched my account, this one's looking at my personal website. You'll notice that I had to set this up for each of these individual pages. So my website has a design section, a fine art section, and then just an about me section. So we can actually see the total of search clicks, the coverage. Here we have enhancements, look at performance, total clicks, total impressions. And we can kind of search this. Here we have last 3 months, queries, so we can see that information again. So once you have it set up, you don't necessarily need to go here. You could just go to your analytics, look at pages in particular, you have clicks versus impressions, countries. Most people are in the United States, devices. Most people are on desktop. So for the most part, you're going to be looking at the overview. You can kind of break this down a little bit. But again, once you have it set up, you can kind of find all this information in analytics as well. So you want to set up your analytics and then also make sure you set up your Search Console so that it works together. Project 2. Learn and understand audience and topic profiles. Learn and understand keyword generation and selection. Head and long tail keywords. Learn and understand and incorporate analytics. Learn and understand markup strategies for coding a site. Learn and understand server-side strategies for SEO. Overview: for this project, you'll need to work with the website that you have access to. It can either be your portfolio or a business site. You'll use the site as a reference for the remainder of this course. Ensure that you are able to access at least 3 to 5 pages of the site. If you're starting a new site, create at least 3 pages and link them from the index. Students will implement Google Analytics and analyze the review strategies for enhancing marketing objectives. So you're not really going to be able to see the Google Analytics yet, but you'll want to have it set up so that way for the last project, Project 4, you can take a look at it. And again, you might not see actual results. It kind of depends on the site you're working with. If you're using a WordPress site, you can also set up analytics on it. You'll have to look up directions for how to do that. Individually, it might require using a plugin to do that, but you should be able to see it. WordPress, for example, is really great at giving you a lot of analytics already, which you can use as well. All right, so if you do want to use WordPress, you should be able to already see some statistics. I think there might be some plugins as well that you can use, but WordPress in general just has statistics. So if you log into your site, so here I have this one, I can go to the statistics. I can again kind of take a look based off of the traffic. So you can go to months. Here I can look at when I have different views. I can look at views, visitors, views per visitor. This is a portfolio site where I have a lot of student examples. So again, it's usually got more traffic during semesters. Here I can look at different posts and pages. So which are the pages that are being looked at the most. So in the last 30 days, the about page, the course's taught page, got a few views. And then I have kind of a widespread about has the most. Then I have some where it's different examples, year. So the longer that you have it up, the more you're going to be able to see feedback. So for example, if I look at all time, I have some pages that got deleted. I don't have any more. It looks like the one that I currently have the most would be HTML and CSS. Student work. Here I have refers. So let's do quarter. LinkedIn is one of the main ones. LinkedIn's a really great way for you to get traffic, so I'd recommend using that, especially if it's a personal site. Search engines, I can take a look at this. Google search, wow.com, Ask, Yahoo search, Bing. Some of it's like directly from like a gallery, Facebook. So maybe places where I had this on my resume. File downloads. Refers, videos, authors, countries. Again, look at certain periods of time. So most of my traffic, United States, Brazil is some of it. Here I can look at different insights. So based off of posting activity, I don't have a lot of activity. I kind of mostly update at the end of semesters when I have new examples I want to put up. All-time views. Followers, most popular daytime, tags and categories. So if you were making use of working with tags, you can kind of track that information. Now, if you're wanting to look for other things that you could use, you can go to plugins and you can look for different tools. I just typed in SEO, and I know that Yoast SEO is kind of a popular one. I believe you have to pay for it though, so if you are using if you're using a WordPress site, you might take a look at this if this is kind of an investment that you really want to use. There are ways where you'd find analytics if you are doing a WordPress site, and you can still use that information. Procedure: prepare and acquire access to a website. You should have that by now. Prepare an audience summary of your intended audience. So just give us some information on who they are. Your audience focus should be broad enough to include an unforeseen audience, yet be focused enough that you can justify your keywords. Prepare a list of keywords that will be included in your SEO strategy. Use Google Trends and other available tools to help you determine optimal keywords. Categorize your keywords according to head and long tail, and briefly summarize your choices. Your summary should reflect your audience analysis and defend your choices. So again, like let's say you were making a site for children, you might want to have different long tail terms that you would use, thinking about how are they going to search for a particular topic. Are they going to be doing that topic in a class where the teacher is going to have them look up specific keywords? Implement Google Analytics to each page or an included section that is incurred on each page of your site. So to try to help, I know my video wasn't able to go over everything in Google Analytics. Your textbook does have some steps, but it's a little outdated. I looked around for a bunch of different tutorials, and I felt like this one touched on Google Analytics the best. It might still look a little bit different than how yours looks, but I think it's a really great way for you to figure out how everything in Google Analytics works, give a good overview of everything. So I'd really suggest that you watch this video when you're setting it up. Looking at the source code of the homepage of your selected site, compose a discussion illustrating what you can do to make the code more accessible, to include possibly renaming your file names, adding meta descriptions, meta keywords, changing your title tags, putting keywords inside of your headers, thinking about possibly creating a site map if that makes sense for your website. Discuss how the markup and server side can be tailored to enhance marketing objectives. Provide specific examples with illustrations from screen captures, so that way we can see what you're describing. Ensure to cite your sources and your chosen site URL for the term. That will help us see what website address you're actually looking at. We can kind of see what you're working with. Also, again, cite your sources so that way I can tell where you're getting your information from. It really helps for other people who are trying to look up that same information. Maybe they might find the same information helpful. Referencing your discussion points, implement your solutions to your website pages. So if you're able to actually go and put those changes on your web pages, if you're doing this as part of a project for a business where you don't really have permission to change it, you might just make a copy of those files and then make a change in the copied files, publish that somewhere, so that way you can still see how the changes are actually changing the results of your analytics if possible. Submit your discussion in URL demonstrating how you have implemented your solution to the Project 3 discussion forum. Let's just say Project 2. I need to go back and change that. Reply to 2 classmates' submissions. So the rubric for this is going to be 20 points for posting your URL for posting how your URL demonstrates how your analytics have been implemented. If you could just take a screen capture showing that you've actually added that script to the top of your page, so that way I know it works. If you need to, you can blur certain things out. Posted URL demonstrates optimized solution for meta and title tag, sitemap, header, and page file name. So we should be able to see in your HTML that you've added like a meta description, meta keyword, changed your title, header information to include more of those actual keywords, posting discussions and URL for your chosen site. So just giving us that actual description in your discussion post, and then your response to 2 classmates' posts. Here we have the week 2 discussion where you're going to post everything. Again, make sure that you are giving yourself enough time where other people can comment to yours before it's due. And then you'll have quiz 2, which will be over the lecture, the textbook reading, and the supplemental materials. So that covers everything for week 2. If you have any questions, you can post to the help discussion thread, or you can email me or visit me during office hours.